I now call this House to order on the motion the state of Alaska should commit to additional significant reductions in state spending before capping the PFD or imposing new taxes. I call upon Nathan Burns, representing the proposition side from UAA.
Folks, I don't have to tell you that fiscal times are tough. We see it every day. But we're not so much in a budget crisis as we are what we've been in for the past decades now, a spending crisis. That what we have done is decided that every day we're going to look at the paper, look at the oil prices, and decide, can we run our government or not? That is unsustainable. I will be arguing that we need to curtail our spending because it will increase economic stability and provide a sense of consistency for the Alaskan worker that has to live underneath it, and that my opponent's arguments, and the chief of the two arguments made by the opposition for how we should solve budget crisis will not achieve either economic stability or consistency for the Alaskan in this state. So, on economic stability, we have so many externalities we are at risk with in the state of Alaska. We don't know if oil prices are going to go up. We don't know if they're going to go down. We don't know what they're going to be tomorrow. We don't know if they're going to be 5 years, 10 years, 50 years from now. And we don't know what the economy is going to look like in that time. We have to control what we can control. And it is incredibly easy compared to predicting the future to make reasonable, rational cuts to our spending, which has blossomed. That we have gone from, that we spend twice what we did 10 years ago, well over twice. But we haven't doubled in population. It'd be crazy to say that we've doubled in need, especially for the essentials of what a government should provide. And we've done it because oil peaked and revenue sprung up. And in lieu of saving these things for hard times, we're a boomtown. And if we don't save, we become a bust town. We expanded the scope of the government wildly. And it's unsustainable. And we have a year before the constitutional budget reserve is done. And this is going to create nothing when we're talking about consistency. Businesses love consistency. People love consistency. That people need the knowledge that they are not going, that what they budget isn't going to change overnight. That they're not going to see hikes on taxes. That they're not going to see their permanent fund slashed. They can wake up to tomorrow knowing that they're going to take home the same amount of cut last year as they're going to do this year. That people need to know that. That's what makes businesses thrive up here. That we are when we're talking about stability, if we're going to stabilize, we need to expand as a state. We need to get beyond just being a one-horse town. We do this by being friendly to business. We want businesses up here. We want them to invest. And we're business friendly up here because of our low taxation rates. So, we can control spending. It's the one thing we can't control. It's the one thing we can control. And I'd like to talk about the other two proposals today because I believe that they both fail to provide economic stability and consistency for the Alaskan. That the first, we can't tax our way to prosperity. That the business of Alaska is oil, but we can try to make it business. But we have to be favorable to business. We have to be a place that people are going to come up here, and it is an uphill battle. We do have the second highest cost of living in the nation, and we subsidize people being able to live up here and thrive up here, not having to move to lower 48, with our no taxes and with the permanent fund. That if we raise prices, we lower the amount of people who can live and thrive up here. The people won't want to stay and won't want to move. Now the permanent fund is even more impactful for the most desperate of Alaskans, low-income families, and rural Alaska. That a $500 cut to the permanent fund will mean that a family of 6 living day-to-day on subsistence in rural Alaska now has to figure out where $3,000 is going to come from next year. And what's more, because we haven't committed to cutting spending, they don't know if that's going to change next year. That they have to decide that their way of life is sustainable. And we can only do that by acting responsibly, by cutting budgets, by increasing stability, and by improving our consistency and quality of services. So, let's get back to the essentials, folks. This House is proud to propose. Thank you.
My thanks to Nathan Burns, representing the proposition side from UAA. I now call upon Joey Sweet, representing the opposition side from UAA.
Hello everyone. As the proposition stated, these are difficult financial times. No one would deny that. However, I do deny that we are somehow going to be able to cut our way to prosperity. Instead, I propose an alternative. First, I will argue that the time for spending cuts has come and gone. Second, I will describe how we have been failing to address this problem in its entirety by focusing exclusively on budget cuts and not spending any time paying attention to the other half of our budget, state revenues. First, we have tried to cut the state of Alaska's budget, and it has not led us anywhere. Since the onset of this fiscal crisis, just a few years ago, the Alaska State Legislature has cut the budget for the state of Alaska to the tune of billions of dollars. And yet, we are still in this crisis. This is because the price of oil has not gone back up, but it is also because we are never going to be able to cut our way to prosperity. In 2014, the state legislature attempted to fix this problem by cutting the budget. It didn't work. In 2015, the state legislature tried to fix this problem by cutting the budget. It didn't work. And in 2016, the state legislature tried to fix this problem by cutting the budget. It didn't work. In each of those regular and special legislative sessions, Alaska State Legislature Republicans failed to address half of this problem, that half being revenues, which I will discuss further momentarily. Instead, they chose to approach this problem from a single perspective, the idea that the government of the state of Alaska is too bloated. Republican lawmakers in particular saw themselves as knights in shining armor, defending the people from this scary government dragon that if only they could slay, they would lead us to prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to tell you the government of the state of Alaska is not some evil dragon, but that it is, yes, a large and bureaucratic entity. We live in a complex society. We live in a fast-paced 21st century world. A bureaucracy should be expected. We are a very unique state. We're the largest state in the Union, and yet we have one of its smallest populations. We have diverse communities, including the most diverse zip code in the United States. The idea that we would be a complex bureaucratic society should be something to be understood and even expected, not something to be afraid of. Particularly Republican lawmakers have focused on cutting the state budget. This has led us to policies such as the following. In 2015, a policy was passed that cut the Alaska Senior Benefits Program, a program designed to provide monthly benefits to the lowest, most vulnerable citizens in our society, senior citizens on fixed incomes. The program provided $125 a month, already a scant amount, to low to moderate income seniors, the average age of whom was about 76 years old. These are people who are not working and who are living on fixed incomes. Republican lawmakers chose to cut that program from $125 a month to $47 a month. The amount of money that some people spend going out to dinner was now the benefit that the average poor senior citizen was receiving. This is where consistent budget cuts leads our state. This is what Reaganomics gets us. We can understand this just by looking around. We are not trying anything new when we cut the budget, nor are we focusing on the entire problem when we cut the budget. A budget has two halves. What you spend, yes, but also what you take in, our state's revenues. For decades, we've been happy to have the oil companies pay for between 60 and 90% of the state's budget, depending on the year. By focusing so much on budget cuts and failing to address the problem in its entirety, we have not adequately addressed the problem. In anything you do, you should do it effectively. It doesn't matter if you're trying to clean your room, it doesn't matter if you're trying to address a $3 billion budget deficit. Whatever you do, you should do it effectively. By failing to address this problem in its entirety, our lawmakers have chosen to conduct this problem inefficiently. Even the proposition understands that when you try to address a problem, you should do it in the most effective way possible. This is the crux of my argument, that the time for budget cuts has come and gone, and that we have not adequately addressed the problem thus far. Thank you for your time.
My thanks to Joey Sweet, representing the opposition side from UAA. I now conclude this debate.